Hello and welcome back to the first episode of Wrapping My Head Around It in 2024. And I thought I'd start off with a bang with someone who has been instrumental in my life for the past couple of years, from presenting, podcasting, absolutely everything. Mr. Aurie Styla, how are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much. This has been, what, 2.5 years in the making?
Roughly that, yeah. Roughly. When we do the interview on the Beeb?
On the Beeb, God, that was about 6 months into my old podcast.
It
So
was
would have
something
been back
like that.
in 2020, back in lockdown.
During lockdown times, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How are you, man? You good?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm okay.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You got a busy few weeks, which we're going to be talking about in a bit.
That's the thing, yeah. It's just prepping for those 2 weeks is what's making me tired. But I'm always ready to go. I'm not like too tired for a pod or too tired for a convo, so I'm all good. Yeah.
So what you been up to, man? Like, you know, we chatted about the Beeb and we were talking about my podcast previously. But then, funnily enough, when I was working in a pub, we bumped into each other when I was there as well, right?
Yeah. I was, that day I was filming a scene for On the Other Foot. It was, where was it? Where's the area called again?
In Tooting, yeah.
Tooting, that's it. So I was coming from where the park is in Tooting, walking up, need to use a toilet, and I went into the pub and you weren't there. That was random.
Do you know what?
Super random.
It was one of those moments that you kind of just like, that's Aurie. Like, you just double take. You're like, hi, mate. Like,
yeah, man. It was cool, that, man. I did not expect to see you there. I literally just went there to use the loo.
Yeah.
And then bounce out. I think I was walking up to the station. But yeah, it was filming On the Other Foot there. I think one of the pickup scenes.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's madness.
Yeah,
just
man.
like, but also you, as I said at the beginning, you were instrumental in like helping me with some of the podcast setup, you know, giving me the space for the studio for my first set of pictures. So firstly, I would say a massive thank you.
You used that, didn't you? The
man.
Happy Jack studio.
Yeah.
I built one when I was still living in London. I had the one in Park Royal. Totally forgot you used that one. Wow.
Still got that picture now. I need to update it. You got another studio?
I do have it, but it's not like we don't open it up to everyone. It's like a purpose built one for the Respectfully podcast, all like the Team AS content. So you can still come up to that one if you want, and take pictures. But it's not like how you did the photo shoots and stuff in the one at Happy Jack. Yeah.
Oh mate, honestly, I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man.
So jumping straight in then.
Okay.
Man, right. So obviously I've known you for a long time, but you've been doing comedy for even longer.
Yeah,
right?
nearly 14 years in March the 22nd, 14 years.
So tell us about how you got into being a comedian, because, you know, obviously I know you as like a presenter and all the other stuff that you're doing as well, but the comedy, which I'm very excited about, I'm coming to your tour very soon.
Which one?
May the 4th in...
London shows.
Yeah, London shows. But tell us how you got into it.
So as a kid, like everyone's story is they used to watch comedy in some form or fashion, be it a Pryor, be it Murphy, be it George Carlin. Mine was Pryor when I used to listen to his tapes. I also watched, at 13 years old, I watched a comedian at one of my close family friends' mother's funeral.
Okay.
Comedian called Penguin, who passed away recently, actually. And I remember watching him at this funeral and going, this makes sense. Everyone's sad, but this guy's funny. I'm like 13 years old, I think, maybe 14. And I watched him going, like, everything that I've wanted to do, like, makes sense in what he's doing. Never wanted to go directly into comedy, but making people laugh and smile. I was always like the guy in the family that would be loud, not knowing why I'm loud. And it's just redirecting my energy into something is the thing that I needed to do rather than just being loud, running up and down. And I was like that at school as well. Started music when I was, about 14 as well again.
Okay.
About 14 again.
What were you doing then?
It's like MCing and stuff. Like everyone in school was like writing lyrics down and so on. And we tried to do like a bit of recording outside of it and so on. Just a little side hobby. Mainly like recorded some stuff when I was like 16, where I went to a school that had a studio that we could record songs in.
Okay.
But all of my songs were like comical. All my lyrics were kind of comical based. Got to, must be about 19, started going to comedy shows, watching them, thinking this is dope, love it. Again, stuff that I couldn't do, but it started to add up. There was like LOL show that was going on, and I think when I was about 20, 19, 20, around about those ages, get to 22 and I do my first show, and it was only because I was going to sell like these t-shirts and hoodies that I had started making, just like as a little side hustle. Go to the show. No, in fact, no. Earlier on that day, they asked me, do you want to do like 5 minutes? I said, of what? 5 minutes of comedy. They all knew that I was interested in it.
Yeah.
Tried it, did it, enjoyed it. It was a typical first time on stage 5 minutes, but it was still had its funny bits. Never looked back again.
Yeah.
That was it. I was 22 years old and March 22nd.
It's mad.
Yeah, man.
But like you, obviously, I know that you love your craft, and we're going to talk a bit more about the tour later on. But a lot of people, and again, why I wanted to get you on this podcast as well, a lot of people have a perception about comedy, and you know that everybody's always highest of the highs, and you know you see like them being funny constantly, and they think everybody's on it and positive all the time. But there have been some moments in comedians' careers. I mean, we've seen it with people like Robin Williams and things like that.
The downside, the dark side.
The downside and the dark side.
Yeah.
So now I know that through your social media as well, that you've spoken about like mental health and awareness and health in general and things like that. So tell us a bit about like, you know, your mental health struggles, anxieties, things like that, things that kind of, you know, because recently you also deleted quite a bit off his social media.
Yeah, I took like an 8-month break.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Where did you kind of, your mental health struggles begin?
I think it begins when you don't. People's struggle with mental health begins before they know that there is anything to struggle about. It begins before you realize that mental health can affect everybody or anybody. Basically, you can't walk around without acknowledging that everything has an effect on you somehow, whether it be biochemically, physiologically, or simply emotionally. If it's cold outside, it brings down your mood. If it's sunny and you like sun, it lifts up your mood. Simple things like that. The more that you put time and effort into your art and craft, or into things that you're trying to do on a day-to-day basis into your life, the more that you're giving a side of yourself vulnerably to be affected by whatever the influences are. Yeah. And the knowledge behind that for a lot of people, better now, but maybe 5-10 years ago, including myself, was so minimal that you just think that you go out in this world and it's full of ups and downs. After a while, all of those chemical imbalances, all of those physiological imbalances, emotional imbalances going up and down is going to tire you out. It's the same as if you are at the gym and you train really hard one day and sit still another day, your body will seize up. You got to stretch, you got to loosen up a little bit. It's the same with your physical health as it is with your mental and emotional health. If you go from super highs to super lows, what that does to you is throw you so high up with all these endorphins and this feeling of greatness to the lows where you don't understand why you're in a low place, and it counterbalances the day before. We're now in a world where also people watch social media and they compare themselves where they are with all their highs and lows. And this is before you even get to me describing maybe what mine are. It's just a fact of life that it happens to everybody. So knowing that now, you get the ability to manage the tools that allow you to manage your highs and lows and bring yourself more balanced. But if you don't know that, which is where I was at, I guess, earlier on in comedy, where you're thinking, I'm funny, and then people make you laugh, you make people laugh, and then there are days that you're not as funny, you're like, oh, I must not be funny, and then you start questioning yourself. Then you learn how to be funny a bit more balanced, and then you're like, I'm working hard. Other people are getting the attention you're not. When you're in your 20s, you're like, what are you doing it for? Is it for attention and validation from fans? You want attention from women? Is it money? And you may not get what it is that you want, and you're like, I'm not good enough. And you keep telling yourself this. But then you have to find the energy to go, let me go out here and do this nonetheless. Let me go out and be funny again. Let me go out and work on at a club or whatsoever. And then you it's not working. You're like, why am I doing this? You question yourself. And these are all the emotional imbalances that you cause for yourself. Yeah. It was going to happen to me at some point where I would go, either it's too much, things ain't working the way I want it to work, something was going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. There's never one point where somebody loses it. It's always accumulation of either loads of big things that never get checked or loads of small things that never get checked. And after a while, it just takes one small thing to lay on the camel's back, and then camel says this is too heavy. So I can't pinpoint exactly what the break was, but I know the period of time where I started to recognize things weren't going really good. I was in a really bad relationship trying to make it work. So was she. Just we were not fit together, and we both had our own struggles. Her struggles were hers, but projected into the relationship. My struggles were mine. I was trying to avoid projecting into the relationship. So I started trying to fix things myself, do things myself. Whatever wasn't working in a relationship, I then have to jump in and try and fix her things for us. And I'm now taking on too much, whilst I'm also not going or achieving in the things I want to do with comedy at the time, because I'm too busy chasing the wrong thing. Finances I need to cover. I'm chasing the validation from people, trying to be funny on their terms. On top of that, I tried a few like events that I wanted to do, lost a lot of money on one of them. I mean, it totaled up to like 39 grand debt.
Yeah.
Mentally, I was just like, this is too much. And somewhere in that mix, I just crashed.
Yeah.
And that point, I think I had to stop and figure out, what am I to do here? Because I'm broken, but I'm still the guy that goes, I need to fix this. As opposed to some people that, without me judging them, break and they go, what's the point of even trying to?
Yeah, fuck it, it's done.
And I'm not that guy. So I break, and then I'm then just in zombie mode for like a year, trying to just get through stuff, which ain't good enough, because I'm now zombie mode in my relationships with my friends, my family, with whoever I was seeing or dating at the time, and it just ain't good enough. So I get to do like Edinburgh Fringe, because I'm thinking I've done my tour in 2022. Let me try Edinburgh Fringe as a victory lap for my tour. It was Green. Green was the one where I thought I was doing well and I was getting good. And I was in a great place. I started therapy. I started to analyze where I was, but there was still some things that I needed to do that I wasn't really doing, which is just to stop for a second. I do Green, does really well, gets awards. It gets really high reviews online and on from reviewers that watch it online. It's available to watch still on YouTube. Then I take it as a victory lap to Edinburgh Fringe. I win an award for Green and got Spirit of the Fringe. I get to the end of that and I'm like, but all right, I've done this. I've talked about where I'm at mentally, where I've been at because of the COVID, where I've been at because of a bad relationship, where I've been at because of financial issues. That should be the outlet. And it's not. All I've done is identify the problem and explain to people that we can all identify the issues. You still got to do the work, which I was doing with my therapist, which I was doing spiritually as well from my background in faith. I get to the end of 2022, ain't enough. January the 1st, I go, you know what? I'm going to take January off. And then I said, you know what? It's not going to be January. I'm going to take half of this year off. And I go, you know, actually, I'm going to take 2023 off. And I start. And as I start, I'm able to stop everything else and go, this is my break. I'll take gigs that pay me, but I don't want to elevate in this. I just want to be able to pay my bills.
Yeah.
I take these gigs, some corporates, some like international stuff, cruises, stuff like that, that doesn't have me having to overthink what am I doing, but I've accumulated years of comedy and entertaining. I can just coast through this. And in the times that I come off stage, I just stop and go, what do I want?
I think that's an important bit though. You're reevaluating what you want, because man, I've done it loads of times. Do I want like radio? Do I want TV? Do I want this? Do I want that? And it's all like those types of lovely things, but also at the same time, you're like, but I also want like a family life, and I want this, that, and the other. And it's the reevaluation of what's important and what's not. So
it's like, obviously now it's different because you've got sat navs, but it's hard to drive and plan out your route if you don't know where you're going. You have to stop the car and look at, if you're old enough to remember like them
A to Z maps.
A to Z maps, You have to stop and plan out your route.
We used to print off the Google directions.
And that would, exactly. I used to do, well, when I first drove, there were like, sat navs were introduced by like borrow my mum's one and stick it in my car. But you'd have to stop to look where it is you want to go. You can't just keep going and then go, I'll plan to go this way. You might have missed your turning if you ain't stopped to evaluate that. And that's what 2023 gave me, is I stopped. I looked at my relationship, my current one, not previous. I looked at my relationship with my faith, with my family, with my friends. I looked at my relationship with comedy, and I went, you know what? I'm good to just slow down and enjoy this pace until the answers come. And I did. I traveled. I took like 35 flights last year.
Wow.
Yeah. I traveled all over parts of America, Canada, UAE, loads of places around Europe, around the UK as well, obviously. I'm sure there's other places I can't think of, but I traveled, one for work mainly, and two, there were times that I said, from whatever I've worked, I've got a little bit extra cash from paying for my bills and covering that. Let me just clear off debts and let me enjoy some time slowing down. During that time, I do another show called Greener at Soho Theatre. I'll be honest, that was given to me when I signed with a new management. They were like, Soho Theatre want you to do a show here. I said, cool. They want you to bring Green, which is the one I did the previous year. I said, I'm not doing that because Green is then. That was 2022. I'm in a different space now. I'll be delivering that with no heart behind the material. So let me take Green and do a show called Greener, which was me holding myself accountable to what I said I was going to do in Green. Am I good mentally? Am I physically fitter? Am I in a better place than I was? That show, it got like 3 5 stars, 2 4s. It was good.
Nice.
Because again, it was me holding myself accountable. Started to like love comedy again. Just before Green, I was also on Baba Tunde's tour. Shout out to Baba Tunde.
Yeah.
On his Babahood tour. The first leg of the tour, I was the opener for it. He'd just come off the back of doing I'm a Celebrity, so the popularity of him just blew up. Known him for a long time. He said, would you open for the tour? Before he'd even gone on I'm a Celeb, I was going to. So when he went on it and then came back, he got pushed back and I went and did that bit then. I normally would have said no because I was trying not to go anywhere with comedy and just pace myself, but I would never say no to him.
Yeah.
Especially if I said yes before and the dates got pushed back because it was in my sabbatical year. During that time, Live Nation are promoting this tour. One of the reps, shout out to Charlie, who was at a lot of the shows, especially the London ones, was like watching me. She'd seen me before and knew who I was and was asking me if I was ready to go on tour again. I said, nah, I'm thinking about putting on my own tours. All my previous tours I put on myself. She was like, what about, come and have a sit down with us and we'll talk. Spoke to her, liked what the pitch was because it took all of the admin work out of my hand, which I'm so used to doing.
Yeah.
Took all of the heavy work out of my hand and gave it to a company that know exactly what they're doing. And they said, if you're up for it, we'd be happy to produce your tour. We announced the Orator in June, I think it is. We announced it. And during this time, I'm like, I have to come off sabbatical early because even though it's in 2024, we're touring. This is 2023 June. I need time to work on the material. I need time to do shows. I need time to do like work in progresses. I need time to sell tickets.
Yeah.
I get to July and I make a decision. I'm going to come off the sabbatical in September. I was in New York at the time with 2 other comedians, Raj Pujara and Joe Bingham. Shout out to them. We were just kind of enjoying spending time out there. Plus I went out there to see the missus as well, who lives in New York. So I did all of that and said, as soon as this is finished, I get back in September, it's back to work. And that was 8 months of a break. But in the time that I slowed down, I was given the ability to have perspective. I can see what I want to do. I can see what offers come my way because I've slowed down and just enjoyed the pace of, you know what you're doing, go get paid, come back, travel, enjoy what it is you want to do, come back, and then go again when you're ready.
Yeah. Did you find that when you came back from that break, did you feel like it was the right time to come back, or did you feel like you needed maybe a little bit more time? Or?
Right time.
Yeah?
Yeah. You have to measure how much break you can take if you are still trying to progress forward.
Yeah.
Like, the truth is for both ways. I had a convo on my podcast with one of my friends, Mick, that he's a workaholic. So he's like, I want to get everything done. I'm like, you need to learn how to rest.
Yeah.
But then also the people that rest a lot need to learn when to get to work as well.
Yeah.
There is a balance in those things that both need to do. So when we talk about people that go, you work too much, you need to learn how to rest, that's true. But then those who enjoy the resting a lot also need to know when to apply themselves and put resting down, because that can come if you are trying to build something.
Yeah.
And I knew it was time for me to come back because I started with new management that Ep7 management, fantastic. They were capable of saying, we know who you are, we know what you're like. Let's throw some things out there so when you're ready, let's go. And they were all coming in, Soho Theatre, TV appearances, putting me in loads of different venues that I've been in before, but then pitching me rather than just as an act, as a headliner, which some of them, I guess, they knew I could, but they were just like, well, your previous manager wasn't really pitching you as that. We just knew we can book you for this. And then they were like, no, he is who he is.
Yeah.
And it was not me having to work. It was them doing that bit for me. And then also Live Nation going, we want to do a tour for you. And then also me going, when I'm in a much better position now than I was before, why am I stopping until the end of the year if I could start now and get a head start on my next year? I just knew it was time to come out of the sabbatical and September onwards, and laughing ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's weird because I've got a very similar story to what you had with the toxic relationship. Then I went quiet for about a year.
Around the same time?
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah, ish. And then now I'm in such a better place, in such a happy relationship, and that driving force from friends, family, her, like that for me is where 2024 has kicked off for me. Back into 2023 was really good for me, don't get me wrong, but this actual like fire under my arse now is like, yeah, I have to do it now. This is it. And it's for me. I'm not just doing it for me. I'm doing it for the other people that are around me as well.
Yeah.
So that for me is like, because this is my full-time job now. Do you know what I mean? Like presenting is what I do now.
Oh, you're full-time?
Full-time, man.
Oh, well done.
That's it. But yeah, and it's the importance of, but again, it's holding yourself to accountability. For me, I haven't got the luxury now to kind of just sit. I have my rest times. Me and my partner have our times in the evening where we're sitting down, decaf tea and watching some shit telly or something like that. But during the day, it's like full on, man. I think that's the thing. And what I noticed as well when you were speaking about that is that, you know, the big thing that I took from that is that you actually sought help. You went and spoke to a therapist and you actually were doing that. And a lot of guys, and we know that we're shit about talking mental health a lot of the time, a lot of guys won't do that. They'll just bury their head in the sand and go from that. So one question I wanted to ask you is how beneficial you found actually having a therapist.
Oh, it's one of the best things I could have done for myself. One of the best things I could have done for myself. I always knew therapy was good, and I used to preach even before I went and had it myself. But I'm not one of those like typical 1950s man who don't talk and just work, don't show emotions. Yeah, I'm somebody who grasps, but I understand that. And even if I don't necessarily show emotions all the time, it's not because I don't want to. It's because at the time, there's a time and a place that I can and can't. If I'm working, I can be emotional, I can acknowledge my emotions, and I can go, but right now I need to get through this task or whatever it is. Once that's done, I can then sit in my emotion because it's healthy to do that as well. But that's emotional intelligence. And having a therapist, for a lot of people, they feel that it makes them vulnerable and lose that element of them. It doesn't. It reinforces the tools that you have to understand that it's not about not being emotional. It's not about being too emotional. It's about wherever you're at, how to manage your life around the emotions that you have. Also, a lot of people see therapy as telling their business to somebody. You kind of need to. Yeah. You can't bottle up everything or talk to your friends about everything. Sometimes your friends are the reason you need therapy. Yeah. So are you going to talk to them and say, yo, look, I need to talk to you about the thing that you did, where those people might be your triggers. They might be the people that you want to discuss. They might be the people that you want to talk to, but they don't have the ears for it. So you need to bounce it off somebody else who is strictly there for you.
Yeah, the impartiality as well, because then you don't get anybody else's opinion in your ear.
There you go.
It's just a venting, isn't it? Like,
and people think that therapists, what they do is they just sit there and they go, well, this is what you need to do to fix yourself. Most of the time, they don't say anything. They allow you to talk. I see therapy or talking to a professional like talking to a person who's holding a canvas. You throw everything out and it's messy. They just help you reorder the thing that you threw out, but you're there helping yourself reorder it. They've held the canvas up. You can see everything that's there, and they're just going, this may go here and that could go there. And you go, yeah, it can. And you're giving more details and information to decorate the canvas that is a mess when it's inside of you. But when it's out and you can look at it, it paints the picture of maybe what is going on and why, as opposed to it just being inside and being a mixture of all of these crazy images and feelings that you don't get to express because you're too busy trying to not show it to the parents that you are worried are going to trigger you because they're part of the issue, to your friends who may not hear you because they also can't be in the position to be as vulnerable as you need them to be because they might have their issues or they may be the reason. Yeah. Some people don't want to see it that way, can totally understand, but it's so beneficial to at least have some form of an outlet. It's not always therapy for some people. For some, it's the camaraderie between friends if they are in that way inclined, the brotherhood of men, sisterhood of women. When it comes to some people go to the barbers. My barber is one of my good friends.
My barber is my therapist. Shout out to Kieran Webb, London barber.
Okay.
But Jesus, yeah, man.
So mine's Mick Damiano. Mick, who also done my podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
I can talk to him, and he has, because the area that we live in, he is grown up around a lot of these men that they have an initiative which is like there is a content kind of team of them. They call it Power Up, POWA.UP. They like go on holidays, they meet up, they talk, they maybe talk about discussions and things that are important amongst their own community, but it's all men. And like, it's healthy for them to have that, even if their opinions may not be always healthy, because some, like, we're guys, we sometimes laugh at the things and rib at the things that we know we want to rib into, but it's good that you have a brotherhood of men that either you feel you can open up to, or an outlet of men that can hold you accountable as well.
Yeah.
So talking to someone is important. For me, it's my therapist, because I start my week on a Monday with her, outlaying everything that I'm going through mentally. If I feel like I haven't spoken to someone, especially with the nature of my job, where I speak to everybody on the terms of, you got to make me laugh, entertain me. Whereas I need someone who I can bounce things off, that's not going to be emotionally invested in what I have to say or how I feel, who's not going to be affected by what I have to say or how I feel, but allows me to express that, so I don't have to hold on to all the feelings of how I feel without feeling like I haven't been able to express them somewhere.
Yeah. And do you know what? The next subject that I wanted to move on to is, for me, escapism, right? Okay. Because we are keen gamers.
Yes.
Huge gamers.
So everyone tells me this, and I want to know, when they say they're huge gamers, where their level of gaming is at. Okay,
so on the way here, I got one of those little TikTok retro things. I know that you sorted me out with one before. Yes. The console and the telly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got one of them little TikTok ones for Christmas. I was playing Pokemon Go, Pokemon Yellow.
You got the portable one?
Little portable ones.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So for me, I'm big retro gaming. I know that you're into retro gaming as well. But in terms of escapism, for me, like when I've had a really shit day, it's been awful, I'll obviously sit down and I'll chat about it with my partner and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's certain times where I'm just like, just need to have a go on a game, get away, some fantasy world, stuff like that. So first question I want to ask, what was the first game you remember playing?
Alex the Kid, Sega Master System, 1990. I was 3.5.
So mine, funny enough, is, well, the one that I remember was Sonic 2 on the Master System. But my
the old Sonic. Wait, they had Sonic 2 on the Master System as well. Yeah, it was like the downgraded version of one on the Mega Drive.
But I remember Alex the Kid as well, because I used to play that on Master System with my sisters.
I only really remember. Do you know? I only know now. It's not called Alex the Kid. It's Alex Kid.
Is it?
Yeah. For years I kept calling it Alex the Kid because it sounds like Billy the Kid. Sounds cool. His name's just Alex Kid. So and the world of, I hated the game after a while because it was one that came free with the Master System.
Yeah.
But they've done a remaster of it. Miracle World, that was it. They've done a remaster of it on the Switch. I ain't played it.
Really?
Yeah, the original one. I remember playing it all the time. 3 years old though, can't get past like the first 5 or 6 levels. But that I've had a total of, I think it's bought 22 different games consoles.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're a bit above me there.
But I've had some that you would never believe. Master System, Mega Drive, CDI. Didn't have the Nest or the SNES because my cousin did, so we would all go to each other's house.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and play each other's ones. Mega Drive. I had Philips CDI. No one ever had.
What is that?
Exactly. It's terrible. Philips made a games console called the Philips CDI. Maybe sold 4,000 or 5,000 units. It was terrible. They had like a version of Zelda in it as well. It was bad.
Yeah.
I had a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I had a GameCube, Xbox.
I was going to ask you, are you an Xbox or a PS man? But you've done both.
No, I never got into. I gamed a little bit on my. I think the gap between when I went to PlayStation from Mega Drive was gaming on the computer. Yeah. But I went back to consoles after. Yo, I've done a lot.
I was gonna say you've done a
few. I was one of the first people to get a Wii because I worked at HMV when it came out.
Okay.
I pre-ordered mine, and they allowed us to take ours home the night before, rather than in the morning. It if we stayed and worked after midnight. So it was after 12, the machines would register it as picked up on this day.
Gotcha.
So I took mine home that night. And from literally, I was working there. We stayed open until 12:30 so we could take cars.
Yeah.
And the Wii, when you pre-ordered it, a lot of people wanted it, but they ran out of it for a long time. So I had mine before. It came out in like November.
Okay, yeah.
But people couldn't get stock until February. Had the Wii U.
PSP?
No, didn't go PSP.
Really? Okay.
Didn't like it. Didn't like the
It weren't
PSP.
great, to be honest with you.
No, the Vita was good, but
Yeah.
didn't. I only tried it for a little bit, but
Yeah.
But there's so many different. Yeah, basically, I've gaming's been in my life my entire life.
Yeah.
Apart from the first 3 years.
So what would you say of all time is your favourite either game or gaming franchise?
Streets of Rage.
Really? Yeah,
Or
yeah,
Smash Brothers. Streets of Rage or Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Streets of Rage is just too many memories of Streets of Rage 1 with your family, and then you get 2, and 2 when you don't have to call the cops, but you have your own power-ups.
Yeah.
Mate, hours, and it never saved. So you have to pause it
you have to
and
go
turn the
straight
TV
through.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
To go straight through until you died. Hours in Streets of Rage 2. 3 was okay, but it wasn't as good as 2. And then I still play 4 till today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 4 is phenomenal. I got it on the Switch and on Xbox. It's phenomenal. Smash Bros. Ever since the 64. I think I borrowed my cousins because I went Sega, they went Nintendo. I would borrow their Nintendo 64 to play Smash Bros. But then when I had the GameCube and I had Smash Bros. Melee, it was a wrap. Me and my friends put hours upon hours upon hours into that one. Those 2 franchises, untouchable as my probably lifelong ones. I'm massive Mario fan, but
Yeah.
I put Mario over Sonic as well.
See, I would say mine would have to be, I'd go Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
Big fan of that.
Yeah.
And then I would also go the Resident Evil series.
All right. So
Big fan of those.
MGS, I only played PlayStation 1, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Great, but on the other side, it didn't grip me enough to stay.
Oh, interesting.
But Resident Evil, I played 1 and 2. I never liked scary games.
Okay.
The only scary game I really completed and loved thoroughly was Alan Wake, and I've heard 2 is scary, and I won't buy it.
Really?
I won't buy. I got. If you see my TV in my house, it's an 8K 65-inch TV. I have a soundbar underneath it, which is for the same brand of the telly. It has 4 speakers on each side behind the TV. The soundbar has another 4,
Yeah.
and then you have the sub on the floor. This was like a birthday present to myself after working really hard for it. It's a lot of money in that television and that sound. I can't be in my house alone with all of the sound and that massive screen. 8K going up? No way. With Alan Wake 2, you taking the piss. I remember number 1, how scary that was at jump scares. Number 2 apparently is crazy. That's why I won't get a VR headset.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Won't do it.
I was about to ask you if you got one.
I won't do it. I've played on them. I won't buy one.
See, the thing is, I see the videos of, say, people like with the Wii back in the day where
Yeah.
the tellies were breaking and all that, and you see people like jumping out onto their tellies or punching their nan or something stupid like that, and you're like, shit, no, I can't do that. That's a Monopoly
crazy
level.
Yeah,
family
it's too much. It's too much. I would jump and throw the heads if like I'm playing like a Resident Evil and it's right in my eyes. No way. This is not happening. No.
So speaking of gaming, you've also got a new show coming to BBC Radio
Tech
soon.
Talk, yes.
Tell me.
Tech Talk is a deep dive, a comedic deep dive into the evolution of technology in my life and probably in the lives of others around us, and also a dive into where it could be going. So that is coming out in, I think I'm not allowed to tell you the TX date, but we record on the 12th of February within like the middle of the beginning of my tour.
Interesting.
So I got to do an hour of that whilst remembering my hour and a bit of my tour. And yeah, there's a lot going on right now, which is why I'm tired. But I'm looking forward to it. It's like, it's the perfect marriage of what I love doing and what I love doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's me, an audience. It's on Radio 4. And I'll be talking about technology from, like I said, my first television, which is like one of the big ones. They look like CCTV. It was like 14 inches.
Yeah.
Had a VHS port at the front of it, all the way up to where we could be going with AI and like just where technology is now and then further. So yeah.
AI scares the shit out of me.
Oh really?
Yeah, not a fan.
I think you got a longer time. We talked about this yesterday. You got a longer time than people think until we get to a point where they call it the singularity, where AI gets to a point where it is as intelligent, if not more intelligent, than the capacity of the human mind.
Yeah.
What we're seeing as AI now is not the AI that we see in like Terminator and stuff like that.
I was going to say, man, you've seen iRobot, Terminator, literally all the
WALL-E,
films.
all the stuff, yeah. But it's not there yet.
Okay.
It's not like, as much as it looks like it could be, it's still guided by sets of rules that, and also sets of programming that mimic the imitation of what we would conceive to be choice and inspiration.
Yeah, yeah.
Like ChatGPT rather will create things based on the influences that we have told it and the information it gathers from online.
Yeah.
But true inspiration,
Mad.
where that comes from, the genesis of inspiration hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it could, but then also the argument for many, what are they called again? Not roboticists, but computer engineers, but particularly within the field of AI, is what is true inspiration? Where does it come from? Like AI has been around since Alan Turing.
Yeah, true.
He was like the father of artificial intelligence. He made the machine that cracked the Enigma code. His machine was a form of AI. So for them, it's like, if you're talking 1930s up until now, and what we're seeing in terms of its development is where we're at now from where it was then, it's still got a way to go.
Yeah.
When it gets there though, that could be a scary thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
Very scary.
So we were alluding to it earlier,
yeah.
mate. You were saying about the tour. So the
Yes.
tour's coming up. You're doing how many cities? Roughly?
I don't even know how many cities it is. How many cities? 30. I'm not allowed to tell you the ones that haven't been announced. There's so far as 36 shows. So that will take it up to, I think it's 34, 35 of the announced shows.
Yeah.
And then there's all the other ones that are not announced outside of the country, apart from Dubai, we announced that last week. So
That's so amazing.
yeah, there's a lot of shows. It's a lot of shows.
So sick. Now, Aurie, I wanted to wrap up and ask you.
Sure.
I do it with the end of every episode. What advice would you give to someone? I'm going to break this into two parts. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to get into, say, comedy or that kind of world of presenting and entertainment?
Okay.
And the second part, what advice would you give to someone who may have had similar struggles to yourself and may need to seek help like you did when you got a therapist?
If you want to get into entertainment because you see other people online doing it and you think it's great, it's not the same thing. Do your research into the field that you want to get into and really put the time and effort to figure out if it's what you want. There are loads of people I know that say, I like comedy because they watch it and they think they're funny enough to do it because their friends think they're funny. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's really not the same thing. Do your 10,000 hours. If you don't feel like you want to because it's too much, then the job isn't for you. Go on stage, try out being vulnerable in a comedy platform. No, comedy in a room full of like audience members that come here for like comedy, not your friends or family that tell you you're funny, the people that love you anyway, not them. Those who are paying for you to make them laugh, that need you to be able to say, hey, like, I'm funny, and they go, we believe you because you've done that time. Go in front of them, they'll let you know if this is for you or if it isn't. If you go there and you die, you get up, you go again. And if you like it enough to keep going, then maybe it's for you and maybe you'll find a way to do it. But you have to do that. You can't just say I can do comedy because you were funny online or you were funny. Well, no, let me just say that. You can't say you could do stand-up comedy because you were funny online or you're funny in front of your friends. It's a very different beast.
Yeah.
Whatever industry is you want to go and do, go and find out the good and the bad of it and then put yourself in that. And then you'll know if it's for you. Yeah. Like, do your due diligence. For those who are struggling with their mental health, you were talking about that bit?
Yeah.
Acknowledge that you are rather than try to hide it, because the only person you're fooling is yourself. Speak to people around you, and if they're not giving you that feeling of care and are welcoming to how you might be feeling in your vulnerabilities, talk to a therapist just once. It may not be your thing on day one, but you'll know if there is something about having an outlet with someone like a therapist that might be different from your friends that will allow you to go, this might be for me. And that might be the thing that saved your life. Because you go there and you're like, I now feel heard. If it's not for you, keep looking for the thing that might be for you to maybe have an outlet. It could be training at the gym. It could be finding a hobby that is your passion, that allows you to build yourself up physically or mentally. But don't just sit in that moment of, I feel down, I don't know what to do. And don't just go with what other people around you or close to you that know you say you should do, because they don't necessarily know you inside out. They know what they see and what you give to them. They don't know what your struggles are. Go and do some therapy if you feel that's your thing. If you try it out and you haven't felt like fulfilled from that, that's okay. At least you have acknowledged that I need to do something. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be on the journey to finding out what's good for you, as long as you admit that you need to find it out.
Yeah.
So go speak to someone, try some outlets, as long as it doesn't affect anybody else. Do what you can to find what it is that fulfills you.
Yeah. Mate,
Yeah.
I think that's sound advice. Aurie, thank you so much for coming on the show,
Thank
man.
you
And
for
again,
having me,
I
man.
want to thank you also for such an impact that you had on my early stages of presenting life and what I continue to do now.
That's all right. That's cool.
Massive thank you, man. Good luck
That's
on the
cool,
tour.
man. No, thank
I'll
you.
see you on the 4th of May.
4th of May.
Yeah.
So those two are now, they're sold out now.
Yeah, they're done. Honestly, man, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll see you at the tour.
That's me.
Nice.
Thank you, bro.
No worries.